we're on these.
Johnson, Crawford, Sheriff.
Robert Sands, Chief Deputy, Sheriff's Office.
Steve Strickland, the Sheriff's Office.
Bill Brothers, Marshal's Office.
Daniel Dunlap, 911 Director.
And Kenya Turner, Professional Standards Coordinator.
Charles Jackson, Deputy Administrator.
Commissioner Rice, District 3.
Reggie Horn, IT.
Tamika Allen, Administration.
Jeff Barrett, Marshal's Office.
Tony Lee, Director for Central.
Corey Thomas, Vice President of Central.
Madison Stevens, Administrator's Office.
And let me apologize to Colonel Bo Johnson, because we have Captain on here.
That's all
I just wanna make sure we all good.
It's all good.
You might see me on the streets later.
You're always
all right. I wanna make sure.
That's fine.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and start, and we'll begin with the concerns and respective expectations from each of the respective agencies that are with us today. We'll start with the Sheriff's Office. So any concerns, and then we'll talk about the expectations if you have any problems.
Well, we basically, in order to better serve the citizens of Richmond County and do everything that we can, make sure we're as efficient and proficient as possible. Our goal is to make sure that the calls are being dispatched according to the guidelines that are set forth by the National Emergency Number Association, which we have attached to the reports that you
Yes,
sent
sir,
out.
the administrator will get a copy.
Okay. And we would also like to explore our GPS system by dispatching cars by geographic location so that we always have the closest car going to the calls so that we can improve our response times. And to that end, integrating special operations and traffic units on certain responses is also desired. And further down the road, with our new Intel division, with our lieutenant here, we're trying to establish a real-time crime center that when a call goes out, we can go to the location, if we have cameras in the area, and just kind of get a feel for what's going on before our officers get there, about like Columbia County has. We're looking into getting a drone that will also be dispatched to the location that can gather meaningful intel prior to the deputies arriving on scene. But it's critical to us to make sure that we are getting dispatched in a timely manner so that we can solve a lot of the crimes that are being committed, and that we can apprehend the suspects or know who the major people involved are. Typically when something happens, just say if it's in a neighborhood or something, depending on what neighborhood it happens in, a lot of the people who live there aren't gonna come forward and say what happened, so we're not gonna really have a lot of witnesses. So that's when our Intel division is gonna play a role in trying to help track down, find the participants, and make sure they're apprehended. And so that's pretty much our main reason for being here and making sure that, one, we are providing the best service for the citizens here in Richmond County and providing a level of safety for the deputies that are responding to these calls.
Okay. All right, anybody else from the Sheriff's Office?
Miss Allen, I have the thing that the sheriff just gave you. I've got it on a thumb drive for you, so I was gonna either transfer it to your computer or,
Okay.
or email it to you.
That'll
It's a
work,
PDF,
Steve.
but it's the stuff you're looking at.
Okay, that'll work. All right, so what would, I know you've already told me, Sheriff, your expectations. Is it the time, response time is what would you like to happen as far as 911?
Alright, so if you, look at, we gave several, illustrations. Have we provided 911 with the same?
Not these individual, we've addressed some of them with them individually, but there's some that are recent that have not been.
Okay. And so just looking at the dispatch times, the totals for 2024 and the totals for 2025, if you look at what the national standard is on the calls, you know, we far exceed, those standards, when it comes to dispatching the call and the call being sent out to an officer for them to respond to the call. And so that plays a vital part in making sure, you know, we are able to, capture the individuals or at least, know which route they took and different things of that nature. So the longer it takes for us to be dispatched to the call, the less likely we are to find the subjects and get them into custody. So all of this basically boils down to making sure that we are providing the citizens here in Richmond County with the best service possible. But the service we provide relies on dispatching the calls out as soon as they get them, as soon as they can, so that we can then respond. But if it takes dispatch, say 8-9 minutes to dispatch the call, then we have a response time that's added on top of the dispatch time. And so that window of catching people dwindles. So we just need to work on that. And so, you know, as I stated in the commission meeting, that when people call 911, they feel as if they're calling the sheriff's office. And I think I sent you all a text message where someone said, hey, you know, your dispatchers are rude, they talk, they this, they that. And I had to tell them, like, look, we don't run dispatch. You know, that's a separate entity. And, you know, that's run by 911. And so I just don't want people feeling like, you know, when they're being mistreated or the calls aren't being answered and they have to call 10 or 11 times before they get through, that it's not us that they're calling, you know. So, you know, we are out, we've raised the standard of which we are out policing the neighborhood and trying to make sure when a crime is committed that we're able to bring them in and solve said crimes. But it all directly relates and correlates back to how we're dispatched to the call.
Okay. Marshal's office, can you tell me your concerns and or expectations?
I've polled all my folks, commanders, other command staff, spoke at length with the marshal. We don't have any of those types of concerns. I mean, our expectations are that we continue with what we're doing as far as the level of service that we have.
Okay. What else do I have? Mr. Thomas, Central?
I echo the marshal's office. We haven't really had any concerns. Of course, a couple of years ago when we got started, there was a couple of month ramp up. But since then, we meet monthly with the fire department and the dispatch center. We solve any issues if we have any that we identify in those meetings. And since then, we've been running smoothly with the dispatch center and the fire department.
Okay. Alright. Let's see who else we got. Fire.
Same difference, Ms. Allen. So, as you just stated, 911, fire, and the ambulance service, we meet monthly. Actually, the meeting is today. It was at 2:30. We meet monthly at fire admin when any outliers surface. We all at the table. We address them, figure out what we need to do. We bring in, you know, our shift commanders, the other deputy chief, anybody that we need to bring in to identify these issues, see what the root cause is, and we come up with a solution before we leave the room. So I can't say that we have any outstanding issues because we work on them monthly, you know, and it's usually just a handful when they do come up. So that's what we are.
Okay. I think we'll turn it over to 911, see if you can address any of the concerns that have been shared.
Sure. Right off the top, you mentioned one of the big things, and that is utilization of technology in order to get the response times down to where they need to be. Utilization of MDTs and AVLs to where we're ensuring that we're sending the closest unit or units to an emergency, based on the proximity of the call with units and their availability. You know, currently we're going off a rotational basis, who's next up, and sometimes that could have the unit that's the furthest away from that emergency go to where the actual call is. So being able to take advantage and leverage that technology for both of our advantages. If someone's across the district and someone that's actually closer to the incident doesn't come up over the radio to say, hey, I'm actually closer to this, that easily adds on, you know, to the response time. There's several other factors that come into play as well. If we're having difficulty getting information from the caller, technology problems, not knowing what the incident is, we're having to go through our interrogation. Things that are actually in the central EMS contract, stuck behind trains, accidents on the way to calls, some of these things that actually end up being exceptions for their actual response times. In addition to that, it's unit availability. So if there's an issue with units being available, or if there's instruction from a road supervisor advising us, hold that call until 211 gets up and send them to that call as well. So all of these factors go in. Do they happen every day? No. But are they possible every day? They're certainly possible. There's no ability for us to actually stop the clock in those situations where we don't have a unit available or units available. On top of that, I go back and I give kudos to you, Sheriff, and to some of your staff. You can see it in February's numbers where we were actually given better direction to send other leadership positions when you talk about sergeants and lieutenants to some of these calls that are pending. You know, so addressing some of those issues. But I'll also go back to say that there are some things, if we look at the incident type and the priority level, those are things that can easily skew the numbers. And I'll give you a great example, is a funeral escort. If we put a funeral escort right now at 3:15 for a funeral escort that's gonna start at 3:45, and that call sits up on the screen until 3:30, and we're not able to put anybody on that, that's a priority one call, because it's considered that's in progress. We don't have a road patrol and a traffic unit. We don't have 2 road patrol units to put on it, but we are at 3:30. We got 2 units available that we can put on there. That actually makes the response time on 911's end look like we held a call for 15 minutes for a priority one call. And we don't like being in that position, or it makes our times not look great, you know, to be honest. So I think reviewing some of the incident types, you know, along with those priority levels, I don't know when the last time that's been done. And I don't want to speak on behalf of when that's been done. But I also want to, you mentioned some, I know there were some times that were showing up on the screen last week, as far as some national times. I found the document, and it actually refers back to a 2017 survey that was done, that's posted on the APCO website. And some of that data is for a total average for emergency communication centers. Your small emergency communication centers are actually throwing off your averages for the total. So even within this document, it makes some recommendation that the agency that handles the jurisdiction, the that's right, thank you, are the ones that help establish the benchmarks to make the determination for the response times. So that's definitely something that we want to work together to try to get, with that expectation and what the best response time should be. If we look at the overall response time matrix, from the time that it's reported to us to the time that we're actually able to dispatch, ready to dispatch, to the time we're dispatching, to the time you get on scene. And that goes for all the agencies. There's considerations also when it comes to central EMS. You can look at the times and say, well, it takes about 1.5 minutes for dispatch to dispatch a call. And in those situations, if an EMS call drops right here on this CAD, I can't dispatch it right away, because it could be something that doesn't require an advanced life support ambulance to respond to it. If I just automatically send an advanced life support and it's someone that has a broke toe, I'm wasting resources. I'm sending resources that aren't necessarily needed for that type of emergency to go to that call type. That's why it's important we go through the emergency medical dispatch protocol. We determine what that priority level is, and from there, we're able to go. Obviously, if it's a shooting, a stabbing, robbery in progress, carjacking in progress, those type things are priority one, and that's something we want to get somebody on right away. We even have established standards from previous administrations where the expectation is it will be toned out, it will be sent out within 60 seconds. Other priority ones are within 3 minutes. With your administration coming on, we certainly want to meet whatever expectations you have, to send those calls out in a timely manner to ensure that we're all on the same page when it comes to response times.
All right, yesterday we got a call in reference to, active shooter at Chelsea. How long did it take to put that out?
I don't have that information in front of me. I can find out.
And so, anytime we, certain calls, like you said, whether they're a priority one call, not every call deserves the same level of response.
Right.
But in a call like that, like we were leaving the office heading to lunch, we hear the call go out on the radio. So we all jumping in the car. We have investigators running out the back door, jumping in cars, and we're trying to make, do we have contact to verify if it's an actual emergency or not. But we're still on the way there until we hear, no, it's a false alarm, everything is okay, then we'll stand down. But, so in the same regard to whether we have someone that's shot, some of the higher priority calls, we would like to get the deputy started, and then collect whatever else, whatever other data we need that may be detrimental to the officer prior to them getting there. But we at least need them to at least be heading in that direction. I don't think any other emergency staff that's here role is as vital as ours as the sheriff's office. If there's a shooting, most of the times the 911 central is not gonna come in till we deem it safe. So that's precious minutes. And so I watched the video with the mom whose son was shot by the deputy and waited 12 plus minutes before anyone got there, while the deputy held his hand over the guy, trying to keep him from bleeding out and talking to him, trying to keep him alert as possible. So time matters. Every second matters. And so for us, and we've had, I haven't met with you personally, like in this type of a setting, but my command staff has met at least twice, I'm sure, 2, maybe 3 times. And we were supposed to have at least 4 channels operating now, and we don't. And so then when the first Friday that I worked on, we were working and we only had, this was before we had the special ops channel, and we only had north and south. And when you're working downtown and it's a first Friday, you got so much going on. You got crime suppression, you got GSP down there, you got traffic down there, you got people running You know, you got a call that's toned out in, 201 East Telfair. And so now, the whole north side is just hung up because of, you know, one call. And so to have that many people operating, and I think Francis was I don't know if it was Francis that was working at night, but she had to say several times, hey, you're talking over someone on dispatch. Like, you know, but to them, their emergency is just as high of a priority as, you know, what we're holding the net on, you know, somebody on a traffic stop. But now we got someone fighting, you know, deputy that's in a fight or a foot pursuit. And so to only have one channel with as many people and as much as we do now having going on is a safety issue.
Well,
for us.
you have the third channel now,
Right.
and we are working on the training for that fourth channel, and that should be, like I mentioned at the commission meeting, we already have a couple of people that are currently in training to be able to bring that fourth channel up. It's definitely something that's on the radar, and I definitely, you know, yeah, we have met with some command staff. And it's officer safety, public safety is at the top of that's what we do.
And so at one point, we had at least 6 channels. You know, we had north, we had south, we had the downtown district, we had special ops, we had traffic, and you had the marshal's office, who was on, you know, we was on our separate channel. And so now you have every agency in the county, you know, operating now on basically on 3 channels. Yes, ma'am.
I just wanna clear that part up right there with the channels. Those channels were condensed right after COVID, during COVID, because the sheriff's office didn't have the availability of officers, and we did not have the availability of dispatchers. So those channels had been condensed down to 2 channels, plus fire and EMS being combined. Originally, right before you took office, we were talking with the fire department and Central to try to split those channels up, because we had one person working fire and EMS and taking calls at the same time. Now with the sheriff's office, we have that 3rd channel with special ops. But let me just back up a little bit, just to make sure everybody understands where we're coming from as far as 911. It takes a minimum of 6 months to be trained as a dispatcher, a minimum, up to a year. The first 4 to 6 weeks is in a classroom setting, because before they get out to even operate under your ORI, there are certain certifications that they have to have, NCIC, GCIC, all those things. So during that time, they're in the classroom getting all these certifications. We have policies and procedures, SOGs and everything that we have to abide by. When that new class come in, it's up to 150 documents that they have to read and sign to say, I understand and I will do this. Majority of them have tests attached to it. So there's so many different things. Even CPR certification has to be done in the classroom. We can't wait to be certified on EFD and EMD. But even then, if after, let's say 8 months, where they can take a call, they still can't take a fire call or a medical call because they're not certified to take that call. So now that 911 call come in, somebody who's certified has to take that call. Now we're all short-staffed. The calls you were talking about, in progress, active shooter, GSW, all those things still fall under that 60-second dispatch mark. Once that call drops in the CAD, all we need is a location and know that that's what it is, and we're gonna dispatch it. The time it takes for sheriff's office, central, fire to get there, of course you guys are gonna stage, that's out of our control. Now, I don't know the call that you're talking about, the mother, the 12 minutes. I don't know what time we received it, what time it was dispatched over, I don't know any of that, even the active shooter call. But there are certain things that we do, and we're all grouped into response times. We don't have a response time. We don't go anywhere. So our time is based on the time we get the call to get enough information to dispatch it, to the time we dispatch it. Those are our times. That's why all of the times are so skewed and it look like we are not doing what we're supposed to. You have to think about outliers. Before you, there were calls sitting in our CAD
Wow.
hours. No deputies were dispatched to them. And you have those 2024 stats. When we pulled our stats for 25, we started at January. But February, there was an improvement because we met with your staff. They provided us with things that they wanted to happen. We advised them the things we could do, but we have to understand, we're in a new administration. While you were able to bring in, and I don't wanna guess, 100, I don't know, however many people you were able to bring in. I don't know what certifications they came in with. I don't know if they had, I don't know any of the process. But if you had someone to put in a car, we still don't have a body to sit behind that headset. And while you guys are our first priority, that has never stopped. You guys are our first priority. You are priority over the citizens that we serve. Because we know what you're dealing with out in the street. All I'm asking, and I said this when I met with your command staff, and this has worked for 25 years, because I've been here for 25 years, so I know it works. All it takes is having a conversation. We meet monthly. I don't care what the issue is. We talk about the issue and we handle the issue, whether it's us or them. Even as far as complaints that you spoke of, that you forwarded text to them. If we don't know, we can't fix an issue. And the people that are calling, while we don't judge the integrity of our callers, at least give us an opportunity to see if what they're saying is actually the truth. And even in answering 911 calls, we have put in a phone tree to filter our admin lines, to free up our dispatchers and our call takers so they can get 911 first. But if you only have 7 people working a shift and we got 15 911 trunks, if an accident happens, active shooter, GSW, all 15 will be lit up. And I have to add this as well, and I know you guys know this, but just to explain to Ms. Allen and you guys. If our dispatchers are working, let's just say this active shooter, was it actual or prank
No,
or?
no, it wasn't, but,
A
I
prank?
think we've, from my understanding, was able to at least track
We got
the number process.
So, let's just say it wasn't a prank, and it was actually an active shooter. While you guys are going, we're gonna dispatch it. All we need is a location. We really don't even care who go. But we have to understand what every department does. Because, and I said this to your command staff, if we don't work together, no goals will be met. Because if you're doing or have your own set of goals and we don't have a goal together, we can't meet anything. But I just feel like it's unfair if we don't have an opportunity to explain everything within 911. There's no way I would come over and try to be a sheriff, police. I couldn't be a fire anything or ride on an ambulance. But there's no way I would just take whatever the public says. And this is the other thing with that. We have started Teachable Tuesdays. Well, we've had issues like people don't understand what happens in 911. And we're playing those on social media. So people can actually understand what happens. But we have to realize all those things that you guys respond to that could possibly cost somebody their life. These are human beings behind the headset. They hear what you see. And they're still expected to work their 12 hours, dispatch those calls, and sometimes they'll answer a 911 call. They're in the middle of CPR and we may hit a GSW or active shooter. But while I'm giving CPR instructions, I still gotta dispatch y'all within 60 seconds for the purpose that you said. We gotta get there. We met with Lieutenant Lewis. Immediately, we start having a conversation about how exactly what you said. If they're monitoring cameras, 12 o'clock at night, Broad Street, if it's Monday and nobody's down there, how can we put a call in? We talked about that. To keep them from having to call 911, waste a few seconds, and let me say this as well. When you dial 911, on your end, the phone may ring 3 or 4 times before it rings into our center, because it has to go through all the trunks. So a lot of things that happen in 911, I would really appreciate if we were able to not just have a conversation about the problems, but let's just work together to see how we can better serve the community. But we have to understand and respect what each other does, because none of us can step outside of what we do and step in the other's shoes.
So, I appreciate that, and I've talked to Trey, and we actually talked today, and he told me how things went when he went over there, and how they're trying to integrate, what we're doing with y'all, and how we can use it to our advantage. I guess with me sending them the complaint, when there's a complaint that I receive, now from time to time I'm looking on Facebook, and I may see with somebody at the sheriff's office tased the guy 8 times on Broad Street. He wasn't doing that. He's homeless, and so first thing I do is find out who the deputy was involved. Let's go look at his camera and see if it occurred or if it's just them talking. Now I'm not gonna respond to them, but at least I wanna know. And so we'll go back, look at the camera and find out he didn't tase the guy at all. They sitting across the street video and, they tased the guy 8 times and he didn't do that, and it never happened. So, I'm trying to provide the best service while being totally transparent. And if there's anything that we're doing on our end that we can do better, then I'm gonna try to address it and figure it out. So us getting better, and I think, when I just looked at the calls for service down here for March, and we're below 9,000 right now. So I think, we're headed in the right direction. And I just kind of feel like things are starting to slow down a little bit here in our county. But when we start to respond to calls and we're able to, when there's a shooting, get some people and get them locked up and hold them accountable, then I think the message goes out that, hey, when you do something, you're not gonna get away with it, because we're not doing what the previous administration did when there's a shooting and we don't have a victim to say, well, that's reckless conduct, and they don't get us a warrant. Like we did the Sunday of the Foodies Festival, where there was a shooting. We picked up 40 shell cases out of the parking lot, and we went to get a warrant, and they didn't want to give us a warrant because we didn't have a victim. But we can see on the tape from downtown that they were shooting at someone. And I got a call from someone who said Tamika just called and said they were shooting downtown. So I called her. She said, well, I'm not downtown. So that's when I realized it was Tamika Bean who works for the mayor's office. So then I called her, like, hey, what's going on? So I called the lieutenant, who said, well, I haven't heard anything about a shooting. So you talking about someone calling my uncle Rod, who called me. I then called her and found out it wasn't her, picked up the phone, called the lieutenant to try to find out what was going on before I realized it was the other Tamika, and then was able to call her and say, hey, everything's okay. They left because she was up on the bridge. She said, I'm not coming off. So the time it took for the call to go out, because Lieutenant Thigpen was working, and he said, nothing came across the radio about, shots fired or any type of shooting downtown. But we were able to get video footage. look at the cameras, use Flock to determine what vehicle description they was in. We found the vehicle, we found the guy, and we got one of the firearms that was involved in the shooting. So, you know, we're using all of our resources to make sure we don't just say, well, okay, it was a shooting, but nobody got hurt, so we're not gonna figure out what else happened. So we're trying to do all we can to work whatever leads we get, but that's why it's important that we're able to get the information as soon as possible so we can get a location and collect the data to help figure out who the perpetrators are so we can hold them accountable. So,
And Sheriff, I'll say this, so pulling our, if you combine the first three, the priority 1, 2, 3, in January, 19,835 calls is what we pulled up from CAT. I don't know what number you all have.
For what time period?
January, 19,000.
So we called out all the way we developed our numbers. We called out area checks, follow-ups, funeral escorts, special duty specials, traffic stops, and premises checks.
You included or took out?
We took them out.
Okay.
Because they skew the time it takes to dispatch a call. So for January, we came up with, excluding those, 11,962 calls that you dispatched.
Okay. So with our number, keeping everything in, it was an average of a 3.6 minute from start to dispatch, average for all priorities. February, 20,000 calls. Just over a minute and a half. So we cut 2 minutes off from January to February. And I go back to what I said at the beginning, I attribute that back to giving us that leverage, that leeway to utilize supervisor units to respond to those calls. You know, so definite improvement. And you can easily say, well, January 1, you hit the ground running. Did everything get out, necessarily to everyone as far as, responding, not holding calls, this and that. I would say in February it did, because there's a known drastic improvement from what we're seeing on our end.
Anybody else, any other comments or?
The only other thing I would like to ask is when you guys get complaints or concerns or whatever from the citizens, if you would forward it over to our QA department to allow them to investigate instead of just having the citizens version and your version without us being able to at least say our people tried. Because it's not fair for us, for people to be able to say that, same example you gave where they say you guys paid somebody, he wasn't doing anything. You were able to go back and view that body camera to say, hey, no, that was not the case. We don't have an opportunity to defend ourselves because nobody brings it to our attention. They take the complaint and run to it. And it's just like dispatching those calls. We worked with Major Strickland on a lot of things that you guys wanted from the beginning, and he got them. We have not changed our standards from the last sheriff to the previous one of calls that are in progress, active shooters, GSWs, those type of things. They're going out in 60 seconds. I don't care who goes. It was just such a refreshment to say, send them. Because now we have people to send to calls instead of having them hold. So of course it looks like we're not doing what we're doing when we've had calls in the CAD holding over an hour at a time, waiting on the availability of an officer to be able to send to them. We had no resources.
When I get complaints, just like last night, I was at my house after 8 o'clock, got a complaint, said somebody had been involved in a traffic accident and it had taken 2 hours for a car to get there. Look at the CAD, see the thing, and I'm talking off the top of my head, I think it was 18 minutes. So their 2 hours turned into 18 minutes. Yeah, I think y'all dispatched the call 8 minutes and 20 seconds after you got it. And so we were able to tell them, hey, look, it wasn't 2 hours. I know it probably seemed like 2 hours, but things like that. I mean, we don't just take what they say. I'd go straight back to CAD and look and see when the call was invented or whatever, when that first entry is, and I can tell them every step of the way as it appears in there. So we don't just take what they say, or I don't, and I'm the conduit for most of the issues that get brought up. I'm not saying that somebody else doesn't do it, they're supposed to send it to me, so. But, I mean, we want to be fair to y'all, just like we would, I've been doing this for 35 years, I've had baseless accusations, you know, put my way, and I would always wanted somebody to hear my side. We certainly want to hear your side.
So would you mind sharing that call information so we can
Yes,
look
ma'am.
at it together? So
Yes,
we'll
ma'am.
make sure we understand, what we're looking at, we both understand as to be the same thing.
Yes, ma'am.
Steve, how's your response time with the calculations you had? Is it the same pretty much?
Ours are different than what Mr. Dunlap said, like for ours. And I will caveat this, I did the methodology on your form of how we got the numbers that we did.
Mhm.
We had to do a dams report to do it. I know the fire department, they have a third-party vendor that gives them their data. So we had to invent something, so I'd be more than happy to sit down and make sure that we're comparing apples to apples. But like for January, our filtered time, taking out the things that I said, our time to dispatch showed up as 10 minutes and 47 seconds. And the reason why we filtered out, like say area checks, an area check would be if I was driving down the road and somebody said 400 Walton Way is a problem area, please keep a check on it. So I would go out with it with dispatch and I would say, I'm at 400 Walton Way. They would enter the call right as I was telling them, and they would put me on scene right as that. So that shows the dispatch time would say like 10 seconds or whatever it takes for them to type it in, versus somebody calling in and saying, hey, look, I see the house on fire at 4th and Walton Way. Those times are different, but there's a little disparity in the times that we came up with.
All right, so number 4, path forward and wrap up. How do we proceed forward with this? You know, the governing body is gonna want an update on this meeting to see how we proceed further. So, anybody have any recommendations that they'd like to share?
I would say real quick, with public safety, we have different perspectives, slightly different, but I would honestly say the sheriff department is a larger department. Do like we do. I think y'all need to have a meeting, just y'all, between y'all two, to hammer out the details, cause well, you already know it can be done, Sheriff. We've had some issues, and I had my face balled up, and this, that, and the other, and they said, well, hold on, Chief, sat down, this, that, and the other, this, that, and the other, and man, all that stuff, it gets worked out, and it's down to, like I said, it's a handful, 4 or 5 a month, and I mean, you're a lot larger, you need more resources. It's different, because we do, we wait on you, pull up, all right, scene say, let me know what the scene say. It's just what it is, you know what I mean? So y'all need to get y'all something together where y'all can meet more frequently, and then eventually maybe move it out to monthly, so you can take these things in smaller batches, and it's easier to work out, and communication does work. My wife tells me that all the time, communicate. The more you talk, the more you understand, cause I've gotten a little better understanding. I knew some about 911, but I've got a little better understanding from her commentary just today. So it works, and we can make this thing work, cause we're here to serve them, and we all gonna do that. We know it. But like I said, we do it. What's that? Every fourth Thursday in the month we meet. Like I said, it's going on today, and we took it from a big ball to a small ball. Boom, boom, boom. We in and out. We bring the people in, operations personnel who on the ground, shift commanders, battalion chiefs. All right, what you think? What you got? What's your issue? Put it out there. Dunlap and his crew do their thing. Corey and them do their thing. We come up with something. We leave the room. Everybody on the same page. And maybe next month it'll be 3 instead of 5 this month. So it's gonna take that from y'all. Especially your size, because you twice as large as we are. You got way more deputies, you got way more going on. That's why you need way more channels. Y'all just gonna have to get together and work it out, and I'll bet money you can do it. I'll bet money you can.
So how long would it take, to Chief's point, how long would it take to get those additional channels set up? I know we can get it set up on our end.
They're already.
Yeah, the demanding of them.
I'd say within the next 2 months, we'll have that 4th channel up. Within the next 4 months, within the next 6 weeks.
The 4 channels, how many did you say you shared? 6?
No, I was saying we used to have at
Oh,
least
okay,
six.
so
Now-
you good with
Now
the
you
four?
done.
Right now we have 2 full-time and special ops works from, is it 24 hours?
No.
Okay, so we have 3, and, yeah, we just need to at least get a 4th channel that,
The fourth channel coming online is important because the marshal's office now operates on one of our channels. So, on special ops. So, I'm gonna say it in a nice way, when they're yapping about picking up, trash, we're yapping about a traffic stop. So when they're trying to do their stuff, we're talking over them and vice versa. And both jobs are very important. Those used to be separated, and now we have, like the sheriff was talking about on a Friday and Saturday night in the downtown district area, the sheriff's office will have as many people working from 5th to 13th Street on Broad as we do in the entire rest of the county. So it's like having a whole nother shift down there. So while they're trying to do all the high intensity, making sure that area is safe, you know, people's dogs are still running away and people are getting wrecked out south, and it's just a lot, and the marshal's office is still marshaling. It's a lot to have on 3 channels, so that 4th channel would keep the same amount of activity spread out over 4 channels instead of 3.
And similar to the traffic event that you guys had back February, late February, you know, if there's a day where, you know, we're gonna need a 4th channel brought up for this or that, we'll make it happen.
One thing I just want to say in defense of the sheriff and the sheriff's office is, you know, you guys, one of the issues is, you know, the sheriff, you know, the sheriff's in the eye of the public at all times. And so when you start talking about social media and you get people coming on there and they start complaining, and then that goes out to everyone, you know, that's on that social media platform, not even mention the calls that our receptionists take daily, you know, about, you know, someone calling complaining about 911, how no one picked up the phone, how they waited forever. You know, all that falls back on the sheriff. You know, everybody looks at him like it was his fault, and it's not, you know. And that's something, you know, I would hope y'all take in consideration, because everything's kind of focused at the sheriff and the sheriff's office, because people don't understand, you know how things work when it comes to the 911 center. So, I mean, and so I just want to say, I mean, that's a concern for us, you know.
And rightfully so. And I'll tell you that there were phone calls I received from the previous sheriff that with those same concerns, and hey, here's the number and the constituent's name, I'm putting it in your lap. And I made those phone calls back to those citizens and go back and look to see what happened in those situations. And I tell you, last May, we were the ones that were out in the street committee, as we call it. There's always, you know, you have the public safety committee, you have all, you know, all the other street committee is the one that's the strongest. That's how they're putting, whether it's being tased, 911's not answering the phones, those type things. And last May, we got hit, you know, pretty hard, to where mid-year last year, I had to go and ask for additional funding for salaries to try to keep people. And that was very helpful. Now, is a mid-year budget request popular? No, it's really not. But it certainly helped with our retention. It helped get some of that information down. You know, we weren't having, you know, I'd go on Facebook just to search Augusta 911 and you know, recent posts to see what was out there. And that really calmed down. But I really, you know, please pass that information on to us, and I'll address it, you know, personally. I make those phone calls myself.
Okay. One person I didn't ask, Reggie. I know technology was mentioned. Is it anything that you can give some input on?
Yeah, the sheriff mentioned dispatching the closest vehicle, and I think somebody else mentioned that as well. For as long as I've been here, sort of the methodology for how the sheriff's office gets dispatched, and no one can correct me if I'm wrong, but there's a geographic area, there's primary, secondary, tertiary units that are assigned, maybe more than that are assigned to respond within that geographic area. The shift to dispatching the closest unit is an operational decision. The technology can handle it. There are technology considerations that have to be taken into account when we start talking about that. So it's a bigger conversation than walking out of this room and saying it's done. Part of that is things like this. You could have somebody driving down Warren Road and there's a wreck on I-20 right next to it, and it's gonna show that unit as being the closest, but it's not actually the closest in the time it takes to get there. And so when you start building out proximity proximity dispatch, you have to take into account bridges, overpasses, on-ramps, off-ramps,
Time of day.
weight limits, speed limits, all these other things. And so, the next step to get there would be some sort of hybrid approach, that would require a little bit of more conversation. And just getting purely to a closest unit type of situation is certainly doable. It's just a matter of, we've all gotta be on the same page. That alone, though, I will say this, is not gonna address all of the sheriff's concerns. There are other concerns that were mentioned. That's just one of them, so I wanna caveat that as well. The question then becomes, who is operationally responsible for maintaining that? Historically, it would be the 911 center. I'm not sure what it would take for 911 to configure CAD for those purposes. It does require work with GIS data and some other things, and so it's doable. There's nothing technically stopping it from happening. It's just a conversation and a lot of work to get there. And so, Sheriff, we probably want to continue having that conversation as to how to make that happen, but it's not an overnight thing just because of the way the data has to be configured to make that happen. And historically, it's never been configured that way.
So, I'm sorry,
I was
Sheriff.
gonna say, geographically speaking, our intentions and plans are to go back to, a beat system, which will have units generally closer.
Right.
And when we dispatch them, if it was 303, then 304 and 302 areas should be close. And if, something happened, those would be the two units that, if they're available, we would send. And so we are currently, getting that worked out.
Yes, sir. We're
So
working
that should
with
help.
Major Strickland on that and your other teams that are working on
So
that.
that's almost finished, but just for everybody else who maybe doesn't know, so like, right now, the county is split in half, basically along Gordon Highway. So everything that's south of Gordon Highway would be the south precinct, everything north, obviously, is the north precinct. And where the proximity dispatching comes in, like Mr. Horn was saying, is what we want to be able to do, and those people are on different channels. So if I was riding along Gordon Highway and I'm on the north precinct, I'm listening to the north channel, they would put out a call that would not come out on the south channel. It literally could be just on the other side of the intersection, say right behind me, so I'm going away from it. With the way we do it now, and with the beats, like the sheriff said, that's gonna help address those, because we're gonna have smaller areas of responsibility. But with the proximity dispatching, that would pick up, hey, Steve Strickland is just like one intersection past that, and the guy who's getting dispatched, even though it's on his beat, might be 5 minutes away. And obviously, we wanna be to all of our calls very quickly, but if you're reporting that your neighbor looked at you sideways when you took the trash out, that's one thing. But if it's, hey, I just saw my ex-husband and he's been stalking me and I see him behind me, or shots fired or whatever, we definitely wanna get to those, because we know that the time it takes for people to call 911 sometimes is several minutes. You wouldn't think it would be, but it would. A lot of folks call their friend or their neighbor, hey, this is going on, what should I do? And they get told, hey, call 911. So we're a couple minutes in the hole anyway, so anything we can decrease that to get going to help these folks, the better. Just like Ms. Cheatham was saying, I'm sure it's bad to listen to it on the phone. I totally understand that. It's horrible to see some of the stuff that we see. And if I never saw another dead person or a shot person or whatever, it would suit me fine. And if we could get there to prevent that, I'm all for it. Because I won't be able to sleep at night when I finally am done.
Steve, when will we have the beat set up?
Right now, ma'am, they are pretty much done through GIS. Everything is done. We're waiting on Ms. Silas to come in and actually enter them in. With each address, and they can correct me, I'm probably oversimplifying it, has to have like a list of every car in that precinct assigned to it. So if it's on my beat, I'm the first one to get called. If he's the beat next to me, Chief Sam's is the next one, then him, and it goes all the way out to 18 positions. So now we have to put that in, but the GIS part's done, the stuff with IT is done. So it's just a matter of getting that last part done. So Short answer, I know I talked too much, it's probably a couple of weeks.
So 2
And the
weeks.
annual sporting event is probably gonna mess us up a little
Oh,
bit, so.
So we're gonna do that after Masters?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, gotcha.
And the purpose of going back to having beats, is it allows us to build a rapport, you know, the officers to build a rapport with the people that they service, you know. So if I'm in your neighborhood every day, or every time I come to work, when something happens, you know, I know who you are, I can pick up the phone and call. And on the other end of that, I know, like, this car doesn't belong to this house, like, I know Miss Johnson's car, she drives this, and now, you know, why is this car sitting here this late? And, you know, so it just helps bridge the gap between law enforcement and the community. And so that's very important when it comes to solving crimes. You gotta have that trust, and as much as we're doing, we've been able to do so much and solve and prevent things from happening because people in the neighborhood feel now like, hey, I can pick up the phone and call the sheriff and say, hey, this is going on, I'm watching it live on Facebook, and they send me a link to Facebook, and I'm watching it, and I'm like, well, what am I looking at? Oh, well, they over in East Augusta Commons, they waiting at the park, waiting on some girl. When they get this many likes, they gonna start fighting. And so then I've hung up the phone, literally called Metzler and said, hey, we need to get some units over to such and such to prevent something from happening. And so the young lady had a firearm, and this was in Lake Homestead. She had a firearm, was waiting on another female to show up. And so we end up getting there, breaking it up, and come to find out, we did a little more research, figured out who she was. She had warrants. She was wanted for the shooting at the mall. They charged her with some RICO stuff because she was part of some gang. And so we got off the street. But, you know, it takes the public getting involved to help us. So a lot of what we've been able to do has been because people are now starting to reach out and feel like, you know, the sheriff's office is going, you know, now we can call and they're gonna do something about it. And so that's why we want to get back to beats where we have more of a community policing aspect to help foster that relationship.
Absolutely.
And that's the
Yeah, I
end,
like it.
and that's the end game. Even, you know, coming here with this meeting, ultimately, all we want to do is better our community, make it safer. And the more we can, you know, when people do something, put them in jail, hold them accountable, and they realize that I'm not gonna be able to get away with it, then it'll start to slow down. And so ultimately, that's what we want a safer Augusta, because, you know, we're not growing like we used to, and people are leaving, going to other places because they feel safer. And so that's kind of driving the economy out to Columbia County and out in the rural areas. So we're just fighting hard to kind of get it back and want people to feel safe so they can come spend their money downtown. So at the end of the day, that's what we need.
So I think at the end of the day, I'm like the sheriff, we all realize the purpose of this meeting was to make sure that our citizens are safe. Exactly. And so we gotta get there as best we can, Dandra, in speeding some of the call response time, things of that nature. But I think this is what I'm walking away with, and anybody, you know, correct me if I'm wrong. The sheriff, if we can have the sheriff's office leadership, to start meeting with 911 team to see what we need to do and the things that y'all have. I think y'all have already started that meeting. But if y'all could start meeting kind of like a monthly meeting or what have you, like the fire does and EMS does with 911, to give your concerns, if y'all have any, or complaints that you have from any of the citizens, what y'all expect from them. You know, and I know Sam's and Colonel have already met with them on some items, like you said, the sheriff, that they have, but just to kind of make sure, get with them, let them know exactly what they're not doing, or what they feel the citizens may have you thinking they're not doing. Have that kind of line of communication, like Chief Beasley said, his wife is a counselor, I understand, she does that, communications is key. So if we can kinda communicate a little more on that, if Strickland can get with Reggie and y'all can try to figure out that reconciliation of that response time, cause I understand it's a little different. So if we can try to figure out how we can make that, the 4th channel will be done in 6 weeks. Okay, proximity dispatching, if we can look at what that would take, I guess, who's working on that, I guess, you're in, it'd be Strickland. We can work on that and come back with a plan, Reggie. Beats gonna be set up right after Masters,
Yes, ma'am.
okay, we'll have that. And if we agree to all of that, we can come back together in 60 days to see how, how much, we have made, how much progress we've made in this whole process. Now, of course, we gotta give the commissioners an update to say we've met, because that was a directive. We have a commissioner right here.
Yes.
So, we had to do that, we don't have to take it back, but when we take it back, we're gonna say, if we agree in this room, 60 days, we'll come back together to see how everything, the progress we've made from this discussion.
So we'll get with, the 911 director and I'm sure while we're working on the beats, that maybe we can, schedule another meeting maybe after the Masters to
Yes, sir.
kind of see, where we at and what improvements, we can make moving forward.
If you good with that, Sheriff? Everybody else? We'll turn it over to Ms.
I just got a
Rice,
question
Rice.
real quick. How many 911 dispatch work a shift at the center? You said they work, what, 12 hours?
They do work 12 hours, so today there are 11 that are on duty. If I go back and look at, tonight, there'll be 10.
Okay, so during the day you have more people working than at night. Why
Yes,
is that? Why would that be the case?
The number of phone calls that we receive during the day, you got people out and about, whether it's school, work, everyone that's coming in to CSRA during the daytime, that's where we have majority of our calls.
Population pretty much doubles during the day almost in Augusta.
Okay.
Got a lot of visitors coming from neighboring counties and all that to work, and then they go home.
All right, and how many employees would you say you're short?
Right now, 7.
So, okay.
It was 6 last week and we're at 7.
All right, and about how many people do you have in training right now? So you
We
say
have
it
a
takes them
class-
6 months?
We have a class of 7 that are in training right now,
7,
8.
okay. All right.
Those are the ones.
Commissioners get a lot of calls, believe it or not, between potholes, 911, they need to answer quicker, fire,
I'm sure.
police officers, we get a lot of different calls, so it's good to know that we do have a good sheriff here, that's taking over, because I will say there are people that were giving up hope. Not with 911, but just with the whole dynamics of the sheriff's department. And I got, some constituents who the sheriff knows, who are very much involved with the safety around the neighborhoods. And, at some point it was like, what do we do? It's kind of like, do we need to move? We don't wanna leave our neighborhood, but we don't feel safe. But just in the past 2 months, I have noticed not as many people reaching out to me as they did a year ago. I'm seeing some progress, so hopefully this meeting, you all having together, keeping up and making sure that the calls are going in on time so that it doesn't reflect off the sheriff's department and reflect off our sheriff and you as well. We don't want that, but just, I like the idea of y'all meeting in 60 days again to continue communicating.
We'll meet before then and then.
Oh yeah, 60 days, we're gonna make sure the sheriff make sure he's happy, hopefully he'll come back and
And if not,
he'll be really
we wanna
smiling at
know.
that meeting.
We wanna know, cause we do want the people, in the city to feel like when they call, they're heard and that they are getting the proper response time. And I just am saying, I appreciate all of your hard work. We're lucky. But anyway, just wanted to get some ideas on, where y'all are lacking. And, so hopefully it'll get better.
Yeah, we just met with the public defender's office to address some concerns and things that they had, dealing with the jail. And, you know, just talking to them, I mean, even they said they've noticed, you know, when they used to wait for 2 hours to see somebody at the jail, now, you know, they no longer have to wait. I mean, every once in a while, you still gonna have some things that may happen at the jail, and they may come down and not be able to see an inmate because we have a pod locked down because of something that's happened. But outside of that, they seem genuinely happy. They said, well, we can tell the deputies are more pleasant and are easier to work with and stuff. So, you know, we're trying to accommodate them as best we can, just so we can try to get the people out of our jail, you know, like so.
And when you
Why you
work-
look at me like that, Sheriff?
But when you're working under somebody that you can work with and that they, you know, it makes it more fun to go to work when you know you can work with somebody that they're watching out for you, you're watching out for them, and that you can work together. But no, I saw the other day, the sheriff's, the jail got a perfect score in the kitchen for food, clean. I don't know if you knew
I
that.
don't know what it
but I
tastes
looked-
like, but
I
maybe.
looked- I mean, they said it was, they got a perfect score.
That's
They
awesome.
got a perfect score in the kitchen for, you know, when they keep all the ratings each week.
Yeah, that's
They-
good.
Yeah, they let you know who's not so done, who's.
Yeah.
Well, the jail, Webster Detention Center's jail, kitchen got 100.
We've made some improvements.
Yeah,
I
you have
actually
done a
walked-
great job, Sheriff.
Yeah.
I actually walked down, you know, through there yesterday, and it actually smelled like somebody was just spraying potpourri around it. So I'm like,
Better than alternative, man.
I mean, y'all have been out there.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
But I mean, we saw people.
We seen how that kitchen looked then, so
Yeah,
that's
they were in there
good.
clean, so, yes.
It wasn't dirty, but it was
Right.
just, you know, we had.
Walked in and the roof was leaking.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So
I mean, as
that's
far
an
as like,
improvement, yeah.
food and how
Yeah.
it's handled, that's how they're rating.
That's
It's the
good.
way it's being handled and food storage and not too
Yeah, I
hot,
think
not
they
too
have to have the
Yeah.
safe serve.
The
I think.
health
Yeah,
inspection.
yeah.
Right.
Well, y'all did well.
So,
Yeah.
That's a plus.
And I seen one of your previous inmates, he spoke to me. From that tour.
huh?
You know, we went out there on the tour.
Yeah, that
Of
was a
the-
great tour.
Didn't we, Mr. Jackson?
That's
right.
And we went out there, I
You went
told
out there
the
too,
fire
but
chief, I went out there and one of the guys I haven't seen 2 weeks later in the street, that he spoke, but he said, you with the rock. I said, I'm glad to see you out, bro. And I kept going.
Yeah, and that way, get somebody else.
Yeah, cause he had tattoos all over.
But Major Strickland's he's gonna
Let's
email it to
see.
you. So
Thank you, sir. Thank
so
you.
you have all
See,
that.
but
Thank
they
Thank you.
appreciate
And he was better, I mean, he was waving at me and stuff.
You single?
That's what he probably was wondering about, Harry got out of there in 2 weeks. I got out of there. I waved back and kept going. So, any other concerns, guys? I think we're good. Everybody's good with that. 60 days is to hopefully to see how much progress we've made. We're not gonna wait the 60 days to do anything. 60 days to see how much progress we made.
I think the major's bus.
Oh,
I would just say, there's an issue, a public safety issue that involves the, tournament. If you have like 5 minutes after this,
Okay.
we can talk.
Oh,
I mean, if you don't, I can
I'm
give
good.
that to
I'm
you.
good. You need technology?
Yes, sir.
Strictly, you need
Yes, ma'am.
technology?
Not Mr. Horn.
Okay.
I'm teasing him.
Bro.
No, sir.
Well.
Hey, Reggie, you do know about the tethered drone though, right?
Okay.
You know on that?
You good, Sheriff? Okay.
I'm quiet. I mean, I guess it's all. We do, we're flying away.
And you know, we want you guys. I mean, we do, to be honest with you. And I had, when I was young, I had sit dispatch a few times. So I know what you do. I just think a lot of people don't realize when things go south, they always, they look at us, you know,
Yeah,
so.
and that's why it's so important for us, and I say respect what each other do, but in order to do that, we have to work together. And I don't know how far you go back.
Then
but
you
I
just-
feel like all of us do, and we live by the brain. Because I have that and our responsibility is to make sure y'all get that together too. So that's why it's important to understand.
So I'm about to date myself, right? So I sat in dispatch back in '89.
That was Slaughter, you remember Slaughter?
So I was in there with Kathy Daniels and Bob. Trying to think, remember Bob's last name. But anyway, so I've been in this about 30 seconds.
You need to come down here.
Well, I would like to come over one day. Maybe myself and the ladies.
Good job.
That's all we can do.
So I will call you tomorrow, get some dates. Your
Kenya.
dates and your dates work out. I'm just an employee, so my dates always.
That's right.
Yes, sir. Let me know. I'll call you tomorrow. Sir.
Yes, sir.
That's what I have here.
Yes.
I can't do it.
I was shocked. I was.
All right, well, let's go through.
Yeah, that is.
And you know, Jack and I made a comment.
And you know they got overrepresented. Who told them about it?
That's what I don't know.
Somebody tell me something. That's what I'm saying.
Well, I know, I'll tell you what, I don't shut me.
Oh, but
And he said,
um,
I said,
At the same time, we have to protect
Somebody tell
the
us
sheriff
something.
and the sheriff's reputation. And something when people start looking, because he is an elected official. So, I mean, that's what we're looking at it from that side. So we're looking at something, we just don't want no bad publicity coming on, and on the sheriff's office. And any help we can get to prevent, keep that from happening, we would like to have.
And you know, at times, it comes even when it's, certainly unwarranted.
But thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. All right.
See y'all later. Be careful.
All right. We'll do. Thanks.
Talking to myself and saying something smart enough to turn my printer back on. I gotta find out that I
You're welcome,
turn it
Dan.
on.
thank you too as well, okay. All right, I guess I'm gonna head on down, I got eight, well, I don't know, 8 people supposed to meet, but I don't know if I'm stay.
Oh, that's right, 5:30.
I gotta go talk to Mr. Lane.
Thought you was going to, Veronica, so you supposed to be coming to sing here.
Wait a minute, when
I
is that,
know.
when's that?
Mr. Jackson gonna have
Veronica
it.
reach out to
I know,
Mr.
5:30, and if you don't be there, she gonna get you.
No, she called me, she said, well, Tamika's coming.
I told her yesterday I wasn't coming, didn't I, Mr. Jackson?
Wait a minute, you know I had to do.
She loved to see Mr. Jackson.
Oh.
She also put out a message, talking about, out there at Allen's place, again, out there.
Oh, yeah, the eat, yeah.
What,
Yeah.
Rubicon.
Yeah.
She sends me that every week.
Me
Yeah, so
too.
she's running 2 operations right now.
She is, she
Oh my,
is.
she
She
needs to
didn't,
be.
want to go to jail. She called us yesterday saying I had to go to Savannah to keep myself calm. So you know what that means, Commissioner Rice.
Yeah, I know. You know, one of my favorite people is Rod. Yes. He's the one that keeps me informed of what goes on over there.
Oh.
Yes, yes, that's been, well, it's got, I don't know if it's gotten better or not. But I've been in touch with, Sean Rhodes a little bit about
Yeah.
trying to, something else. All right, I'm gonna leave you alone. Thank you. All right, y'all enjoy.
See you
Thank
later.
y'all for allowing me to be here.
You're welcome.
Make sure Lewis gets back okay.
He's on the way.
He is on, he's coming back today?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, goodness gracious.
Tonight,
Love
he'll be back
y'all.
tonight. Bye, be
Where
good.
was Lewis? Training?
So he's was doing some Axon stuff, like looking into getting
The
some
body
more
cams.
cameras.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
No,
Mr.
ma'am.
Strickland.
So I didn't wanna speak out of turn. I'll give this to you. or-
Okay, yep.
We had some examples, and just like the call times that he was saying were very divergent than what we had. Our average is like 10 minutes and 47 seconds for January, and that's with filtered calls. That's calls where people have called up and asked. In this, and I'll be brief, I know you're busy, but like some of these calls that we had, and all I did was just pull important calls. The first one that you'll see in your packet. Guy calls up, he's a minister of a church, and he says, I'm looking at a camera, a security camera, and there's somebody breaking into my church
Sharon
right now.
Baptist.
They say, well, we don't do unverified alarms. And I'm paraphrasing. And he's like, look, I'm watching it. He goes back and forth with the dispatch a little bit, finally calls the sheriff gets somebody, he's at home, gets somebody dispatched. Several minutes after we get there, we catch somebody and they're charging with 3 felony counts, one of them.
He called Shanita called me, then I called Thick, and he was working. Same Saturday that the shooting happened in Queen Circle, and we were able to get somebody over there and, yeah, get the guy called in the church.
Second one, the Dollar General, 58 Mike Paget Highway out south. Now, in their favor, we were extremely busy that day. They get a call, lady calls and says, hey, this guy comes in, he basically tells her he wants all the money in the safe. He walks back out, he comes back inside, he intimates that he's got a gun in his back pocket. They put that call out 26 minutes and 9 seconds after it happened. Now, as it turns out, the guy was probably just a little bit off, but I mean, that right there, and that's what I was trying to say, people want, and we need to get that call like right away. I'll tell you one more, and then I'll let you be. Another one, the former commissioner, Mr. Clark, the guy that passed away.
Oh, okay.
So his girlfriend, some relative, there's a disturbance at a house, people start shooting at their house. That call took dang it. It's probably in there.
By filtering those calls, you get the calls that we need to leave now.
That's why I want him, I want Strickland
So-
and Reggie to.
Those are those times.
So somebody's shooting at the house, they say they're shooting the house, the call comes in at 8:36, and it gets dispatched at, 6:36, it gets dispatched at 7:05, 28 minutes and 28 seconds. Those people were livid. And like, the colonel was saying, and I don't wanna beat a dead horse, they're mad at us, they're mad at him, and they're like, what are y'all doing? You know, you're asking for X, Y, and Z, and somebody's shooting at our house, what does it take? So I think there are instances where Mr. Dunlap was kind of downplaying the thing, and I'll concede that our numbers and his numbers might be different, because even though you're pulling from the same data, you're using different things, and we probably do need to sit down, and I'll do that with him next week, so we can give you one set of numbers. But I think the problem is a little bit wider than he says. We have met with them, and we don't throw stones. I mean, we're professionals. Somebody says, hey, X, Y, and Z happened, we just don't take their word for it. We look into it. I go through every call that comes up, I pull all the data, and I can tell you what time the call came in, what it's doing, and then when it gets dispatched. He will be able to give you instances where we didn't have anybody to send, and that's valid, and that's a us issue. We build up our manpower and stuff. But our thing is, we want the dispatcher to pick up the phone. Hey, with 911, what's your emergency? I'm at 4th and Wantway, they're shooting at my car. And for them immediately just to dispatch the closest car. While the car's en route, they can start getting information. The problem is they get all their information, and they have like a little a menu, like a flow tree, and they want every question answered.
That's why I asked them if they need to do that when I talked to them.
Before they send the car.
No,
Yeah.
no, ma'am, they don't. Now,
They say they need to do that, what do you call it?
It's called a
Protocol or something like that?
it's a national thing, it's like a dispatch thing that that they, like guidelines, like we get
Mhm.
accredited. But there's nothing in that accreditation that says you can't immediately dispatch the call. Now, what he would tell you is, when they dispatch us, the deputy is gonna be yapping, asking all kinds of questions they don't have the answer to. We fixed that 4 years ago. They're supposed to just go, and then they know that as they get closer, dispatch is gonna give them the information. But I just didn't want us to walk out to think that the problem is one thing, when in actuality,
And
it's another.
that's why I said, what I said, when certain calls go out, you get a location, go ahead and send a deputy, then go back to gathering whatever information you deem pertinent for the officer to know, so they can go ahead and get there, at least be on the way. But, yeah, so I didn't wanna sit here and just,
Bashing.
you know.
But y'all carry, y'all have
so-
5 guns in here, y'all, and y'all should just said it.
Well,
So, we going on like it was gonna work. I mean, do y'all think
Well,
the
I
60
think-
days is gonna work? Or?
It has-
Well, I'm just saying, so we've met, they
We've met.
met with them before, and we were supposed to have, like I said, 4 channels already.
mid-January, almost the
We-
end of January, wasn't it?
We met in,
No,
late
they were supposed to have the
December.
channel
Yes, sir.
mid-January.
We met in late December, and the chief basically said, we wanna have 4 channels within 60 days, we wanna have 3 channels within 30 days. And we've probably had 3 channels within the last 30 days. We have always met with them, and I'll continue to meet with them, and I'm sure the chiefs and the sheriff will, but it has been two-sided. They're just, sometimes they're reticent, it seems like they're not very responsive to our question, or our requests. And
What the sheriff said, he don't wait, and when he see a problem in his agency, he's trying to find a way to fix it. He's seeing a problem, we've told him problem, he's here, obviously the problem, what is he doing to fix it? You know what I mean?
And I guess y'all didn't really want it because we had the other agencies in there as
Right.
well, and they were saying everything was great, of course.
And that's because they don't have near the call volume.
That's what I knew that. I
You
knew
know,
y'all had more
and-
calls.
and not trying to discredit them in any way, but if they have a call, you can almost bet 9 times out of 10 the sheriff's department is showing up on their call. If we have a call, it's rare they show up unless there's an injury or something like that. So, I mean, we're out there way more. The sheriff's way more publicized than than the marshal and the fire chief and EMS. I mean, it is what it is.
Popular
And,
than Marshall.
and so,
This is a call we got from a guy who don't even owns the Lamar building, who don't even live in Augusta. But he called about his building being vandalized and people being inside of his building. So, Chief
my
Blanchard
God.
and crime suppression went up 17
Who
floors.
is that? That's a guy. Who that? The officer?
That's a
this-
deputy.
Oh, that's a deputy. I can
So
say
we went
the
up,
guy right there.
they went up 17 floors.
17.
Yeah.
they don't work it out.
17
Yeah.
floors. Yeah, it's been closed down for
Oh,
a
they having a
couple
party?
years.
A dance?
No, they were,
They're the ones doing it?
these were people that was inside of the vacant building. And like they've used one floor for like a restroom and so, but anytime someone calls, we look into it, we're doing what we're supposed to be doing. And that's making sure, that, if it's their property here, we're doing what we can to protect it. But yes, a lot of the problems and issues we have, like I wasn't gonna sit here and just argue back and forth, but you got a packet of, where you can look at the call times, how long it took before they even sent the call out. And like when I mentioned, when I called you that Sunday, like I called 3 or 4 people before Lieutenant Thigpen said, "Oh, they putting the call out now." So from the time somebody called Rod calls me, I called you and found out, it wasn't you. I'm trying to figure out what's going on. Called Thigpen, and then he was like, "Oh, the call's just dropping. They just sending it out." So, I mean, that's how long it took. Like we made 3 or 4 calls before the call was even sent out.
3 or 4 minutes.
And we picked up 40 shell cases.
That's serious.
So those are unredacted. So just,
skewing
I mean, I know you
numbers
would,
by
but
leaving.
the
Oh,
reports,
you talking about
just if you shred them, and if you like, I can.
They
send you an
skewing the
email
numbers
or
by
your
leaving
office
all
number,
those
I've got it
filters
on.
in there.
Yeah, you wanna take this back with you?
No, ma'am, I'm just.
Oh,
just-
okay.
I'll
Cause I know it has
send,
some people stuff on.
I'll send you, yes, ma'am, it's just unredacted because I knew y'all were gonna be looking at it, just,
Okay.
you know, just shred it or.
Yeah,
Yes,
don't
sir.
shred- don't
Absolutely.
share
I'm
it.
too pretty to end up in jail now.
Now, I don't wanna go to jail.
So the meeting, the chief was saying that he's had with
Okay.
him.
Yeah, we can get electronic.
You know,
Yes, sir.
we've had
That's fine.
a few meetings with him also, but.
So y'all
Had to
willing to
figure
do
out-
the 60 days and see how it works, or see if they improved, at least you can say, we did what we said we was gonna do in that meeting? If it didn't work in the 60,
It's a long time, but I mean, but in 60 days, if they haven't done what the sheriff's asked of them, I
Yes,
think
yes.
that's when the hammer needs to be dropped.
that's when,
And they've had problems also. I was at the marshal's office and called dispatch numbers of times to put myself out, and they won't respond, so that's just, you know.
And we did also, in the very first meeting that Chief Sams was at in late December, we said, look, if you need us to send you people, we will send you people to help dispatch.
Yeah. They said no, they didn't need help, right?
Yep, said no.
What I'm concerned about is what Sheriff just mentioned about this, I guess this list of questions they ask before they dispatch. That's gotta be addressed. Somehow or another, the 2 agencies gotta work that out within the 60-day period.
We tried very, very hard to do that under the previous administration in 2012, and they were they don't wanna do it because it's as part of their program, and what they're worried about is that they hire me as a new dispatcher and I don't ask the right questions, so now they're in a sling because I didn't ask if the person was safe or whatever. Which we understand that, but our thing is use some common sense. If somebody comes up on the phone and is like, oh my God, there's a guy with a gun in my front yard, you don't need to ask him, well, do you need an ambulance? You know?
yeah,
That's what-
yeah,
that's
yeah,
what- that's what
yeah,
I'm
I
saying.
see, yeah, I heard you
There
do
ought to be certain triggers that
Yes,
say,
yes,
yes,
yeah.
yes,
We'll get with Daniel again, and see if they can get rid of that.
yeah.
Like, it was like Mark said, the house on his phone, a house 2 houses down from his street was on fire. He come out of the house ready to go to work. He said he was on the phone with dispatch so long, he just said, he just hung up the phone and just said, fuck it, and went to work.
God.
That happens.
He said they was asking him all, he's like, just sit in just sit in the fire truck.
Hello?
Hey, Mark.
Hey.
Hey, I got you on speakerphone in here in front of a few people.
Okay.
Remember you told me about the house that caught on fire? You was going to work one morning and the house 2 houses down from you was on fire?
Right.
How did dispatch handle that? Just tell them how you say that call went.
Well, I called him and they continued to ask me questions, about, is anybody in the house? And I'm trying to give them the address so they can come because the thing had just started burning. And they continued to give me questions, not concerning directions getting there to put the fire out. And it kind of was frustrating me. So I just kept telling them, come down, get the address. But they just kept asking me a bunch of questions, that were not talking about getting there, you know what I mean? And they finally came, because it was down on Rice Avenue, and them old houses, they go up so fast, and so it kind of frustrated me the way that the dispatch was handling it,
All right, man, thank you.
Now what is, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, so it's instances like that, that, like I didn't, like they just, man, I was, calling dispatch and trying to get them held the house on fire. They asked me 100 questions. At some point he just said, man, I just hung up the phone and said, fuck it. They ask you so many questions that ain't got nothing to do with, like he said, getting there and putting the damn fire out. That was the reason I called. Why are you asking me, well, you know, what color shoes I got on, what the hell I gotta do with the fire?
Well, even if there was someone in the house, you still got to dispatch
How am I
somebody.
gonna,
Right.
how do I?
Get the
right,
unit
right.
moving
Get the
first.
unit, that's right. Get somebody in,
Get the
you'll find
unit
out.
moving first.
Yeah, dispatch the units,
Yeah.
and then whatever
Yeah.
other information you could be trying to gather there.
Now, what they'll tell you is while that person is asking all those questions, that the call is being dispatched. And that is a falsehood. You can look at the dispatch events.
Mm-hmm.
And the way it is like you're the call taker and you might be sitting in that corner. And I'm the dispatcher and I might be sitting in that corner in that building. So we are not sitting side by side. You're getting all the information and putting it in the computer. And then when it gets to a certain point, the actual dispatcher puts it out on the radio. Those two things are not happening at the same time. All those questions are being answered, and then sooner or later, whoever the dispatch is gets it, but they're not concurrent. And we even at the time begged them, tell them, like, somebody's on the way, the fire truck's on the way, and then keep asking the question. At least then the guy knows, hey, somebody's coming. They don't care about all that. All they wanna know is
help coming.
Is the fire truck coming, or the ambulance, or the police, or whatever?
And they don't do that in the big cities. The dispatcher is that call taker.
That's right, yeah.
So they immediately, once they find out the address and everybody's safe, they send it someone. Now they can continue answering these questions.
Okay.
Whew, I think we heard a lot here with Mr. Jackson.
Are you all gonna ask those hard questions when you meet with them?
We've had those conversations in person. I mean,
I told them to
they've been
send
contentious
everyone.
meetings.
Continue sending people.
I need to be in that meeting then, if you don't mind assigning me to that.
Send the people. I told them straight, send them all the way up to me. Send them.
Let's make
You know.
sure Daniel.
Okay, can I get invited to that?
When are y'all gonna have y'all next? I know Masters coming, y'all probably.
I told the
not doing
chief that I
now.
would,
You said the week after.
Okay, week after Masters.
That's 3 weeks.
I'm gonna email Daniel and tell him make sure I'm in there.
You good with that?
Yeah.
All right.
I guess, who's the point of contact from your end?
yes, sir.
Strickland.
Yes, sir.
Strickland?
Street.
Strickland.
Okay, what's first name?
Steven.
Okay.
And then, what I'll do is I'll shoot you an email.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I don't have a card with me.
That's okay. I'm gonna email you and Mr. Donovan.
Okay, sounds like
Right
a
after this
plan.
meeting.
Mr. Strickland is one of our majors, so.
Okay.
Who knows what I'll be by the time this meeting's
Strickland
over. I might be deputy
You
Strickland.
been here forever. Yeah.
Well, Sam said in lieu of, Masters Week, we may wanna meet with them before.
Yeah, so we can get it, so I
If
talked to
something
Mr.
happens.
Dunlap before he left, we can get one spun up next week, and then I'll make sure you're aware, and then, I think there's room for us to get together, but they're just gonna have to get it to where, like I said, the first thing is the importance of the safety of the citizens. We got limited resources, we wanna bring them to bear as efficiently as possible. And also, we want the sheriff to look good. We want you to look good. We want you to look good.
That's
We
right.
want people to think about this as a safe community. Like the commissioner said, probably in her neighborhood, some things have changed, but it's their perception that's changed. And that makes them feel so much better. Sheriff said, people will start working with us, and if people don't communicate with us and cooperate with us, we're sunk. We can't get anything done.
So knowing that bit of information, when you're on the floor, when you see it, you will hear that call taker take that call, and you mentally listening to see when the dispatcher is putting it out.
You give me a call, I'll meet with you, and we'll look at the dispatch logs, and I'll show you
Okay.
how it is. And just anytime you got a minute, I can shoot over here, or whatever, and it'll help
You
you
get to see it
kind
in real time.
That's right.
You get to see
they're
it
hard
in
to
real
send
time.
screenshots.
Ain't nothing like I can show you better than I can tell you.
Yeah,
There's-
you
That's
can
right.
see it in real time when we go over there.
Yep.
You know,
Appreciate
that
it.
way you won't just.
Thank you so much, Strickland.
Yes,
Sorry
ma'am.
calling.
Yourself.
You know where to find
Yeah, I
me.
know where to
I
find
need to
you,
do that.
Strickland.
I need to
I'll
do
be in the
that.
salt mine.
Yep.
I'm gonna set up a meeting where I can actually go see it in person.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
You went to that day.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
What meeting you talking about next week? That's right.
Thank you, sir.
You coming out?
No. Oh, yeah, I am. That's what I'm gonna say. I'm gonna call you.
Yeah, let me know, so we can
Okay.
get you hooked up.
Okay.
All right, fine.
Probably either, we'll talk later now, depending on where you're going.
Okay.
I might put you down at gate 11,
Okay.
and then,
You don't. You can get out of here, cause all you want is money, money, money.
that's easy in and out.
See, Sheriff, just
Yeah,
roaming
okay,
out.
thank you.
Like you got attitude.
I'll call you.
Yes, sir. Okay, where to find me?
Thank you, nice to meet you.
I'm
You
in
in
short.
such a hurry. Oh, yes, right, he's right. I didn't mess with you. You better get out of here. See you later, Bo. All right.
See y'all later. Thanks
See you
for your
later,
time.
Steve. Got a mess. I thought the meeting went well, but I didn't know all this. But they didn't want to cuss him out.
Yeah.
Then I asked them that when I met with them, why do we do those? They said, wow, they said we gotta do it. You know how the second group I met with them.
Yeah.
I bought them in 60 days. I think that's all I'm on. I don't know what you thinking. If he don't straighten this up.
Well, my thing is we need to meet as soon as possible.
Yeah, you'll get that, 'cause I forgot, bro. Mr. Jackson? Yeah, 60 days.
Yeah.
I think we bought him at.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna send out an email, and I'm gonna. There was so many people in there. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So I really need to send something out saying thank you. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
like you said, we got the document.
Yep.
But there was so many people in there. I'll just ask the sheriff. I'll just say the sheriff and his team and Marsh and his team. We're gonna work to get this going. The sheriff will be meeting with 911 soon. Mr. Jackson will be involved. You know, I'll say all that. What you think?
I think we got a lot of work to do.
I'm not gonna document at the sheriff's state later.
No,
and
no,
all
no.
that, but
But that was a big component that wasn't mentioned in that meeting.
What?
About them taking all those questions.
Yeah.
I don't know if I told you this or not, and I know you gotta go. When I was over at Parks, I went to Bojangles. I gotta get to St. Hills. When I was at Parks, I went to Bojangles one morning to get a biscuit. And there was a guy laying on the ground. I guess he had a seizure or something, falling out. So I called 911, and they kept asking me question after question after question.
That's why you look like that. Yeah, they got that protocol sheet.
Yeah.
Something he told me it was.
Yeah.
We got to get rid of it. But then they do it for liability. So they can say that the right questions were asked, but those are not the right questions, like you're saying.
I get it, but there's got to be a couple of triggers.
They got to be something. You got to have them
Gunshots.
keen enough to say it was a
Yeah.
gunshot. I'm
Yeah.
dispatching an officer.
Yeah.
Now I take the message. I got a heart. I feel my heart hurt.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They're not doing that. We got to figure that out. I think tomorrow maybe me and you need to talk Dan for about 15 minutes.
Yeah. I agree.
I'll send that email in the morning if I don't do it tonight.
Okay.
But I think we just gotta let him know. You gotta.
You better be more
Cut.
cooperative than you think you should.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Tell Veronica, I hate that I missed it.
Okay.
But I had to do something for my
Get
son
over there.
because
Okay.
it's at 5:30.
Okay.
But can you ask them what do they expect? You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Because it's supposed to be her community. I hate that. I just hate that at the same time as my son thing.
It's okay.
I want to be there. And she be telling the sheriff and them that I'm gonna be there, so they got to show
Oh,
up.
she put you on blast, didn't she?
Yeah, she put me on blast.